Hey, Sweden. Can you hear me okay?
Hello.
Hi there, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's perfect now. That's perfect.
Okay, all right. So how are you doing?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Just been busy really. Just been you know, kind of getting on with social media bits and then had to post something earlier. But yeah, so far so good, yeah.
I'm glad. I'm really glad. I mean, like I said, I've heard your episodes before on your podcast, and as a
Mm.
fellow podcaster, I just feel like you're doing such a great job spreading awareness about every single topic. And kudos to you, mate, for doing such a good job.
No, thank you. Thank you. It really means a lot. And
Oh,
I
you're
really
welcome.
appreciate it. I appreciate you being on the podcast as well, and that means a lot to
No,
me as well.
no,
And
thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
no, you're very welcome. Same here. Um, yeah, I just, it kind of started off as an idea, really, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in people. I like working with people, and I was like, what if I can do a podcast where I can kind of connect to people, see what they do, why they do it, and talk about
Yeah.
different topics, really.
So I'm sure you've learned a lot because your podcast covers so many different topics. It must be so interesting.
Yeah, it is really interesting. I think I have kind of grown from it in some
Hmm.
way. I, I think I've kind of like learned to be patient. Like it's a
Hmm.
process. I've always liked to hit the ground running, and for me that was
No,
like a personal thing. And
no,
then
that's brilliant though. I
mm,
mean, because for myself, most of the time, the whole reason why I came up with what I do and how I go about it was basically because of my own lived experience from before and how I wanted to sort of take the torch ahead. But
mm,
I've got so much to learn from you. In every episode that I've like listened to from your podcast, there's something interesting, and I love that about your podcast.
no, thank you. That really means a lot. That
No, no.
really, and I think like if I can do it and have an impact in some way and someone can take something from it, then that that makes me happy, and I'm happy that you enjoy it.
I do, and you're making tons of impact. You're making quite an impression at them, so don't worry about it.
Yeah. No, thank you. It really means a lot.
No, no
And
worry about
and I see that you are as well. I see that you've got your own podcast. I see that
it.
you've done lots of different things. Like you're an author. You've done your podcast. Um,
Yeah,
you're like a
I'm,
therapist. You're like a Swiss Army knife.
yeah. Oh, that's the first time someone's called me that. But I'm not going to say that I'm a jack of all trades, but my story is quite, it starts off that way. I'm a mental health speaker. I'm also an author. I write about my lived experience, but most of it is poetry based.
Mm,
I've got my own podcast, which was recently launched, I think, a month or two ago, and it basically focuses on the same mission about making conversations about mental health a norm. So I've got different people coming on that are quite big names in the mental
mm,
health community to come on and share their story and how their narrative has sort of contributed to what they do today. Other than that, most of my insight and other than everything else that I do, it's from the fact that I was a psychology major. I'm a therapist by profession. So
mm.
it's kind of a bit of both worlds where my trauma from my childhood and as well as what I've learned throughout my educational career has taught me a lot, and it contributes to everything that I do today. So in a nutshell, that's basically me doing a
Yeah,
little bit of everything.
yeah. Nice. I mean, and I think it's like you've done a great job in kind of like like some people have certain experiences and
Mm,
then struggle to kind of overcome that, or they don't really know what to do with that. Whereas you've kind of taken it and, use it to like your advantage to, help other people.
No, I had to. To be very honest, I think I'm not going to say that I'm privileged, but I did have this sort of understanding from a very young age, because I left home when I was 17, and even prior to that, I think I was 16 and a half when I left home, because things were so bad at home. I was going through domestic abuse, physical abuse, and mental abuse from my parents, and I couldn't do it anymore. And I kept on thinking during that time, because everyone who was perceiving my situation from outside, they were like, oh, maybe this is normal, because from the outside, everything and everyone looks at it with rose colored glasses on, and they think that maybe this is the way it is. Nobody really questioned it at that time. So I was born and raised in an era where talking about something being a problem was looked at as a problem, which was unfair to myself, to the situations that I was in. So after leaving home, I sort of decided that I've got to do something, not just for myself and my sanity, but also because I know that it's impossible that I'm the only one. And that's the only thought that I had at that age, which I think started from like ever since I was 14, when I began realizing that this is abuse. It's not normal what's happening to me. And I kept thinking, I don't think I'm the only one. So by the time I left home, I went to University of Cambridge. I did double majors. And then after I was done with university, even when I was doing university, I did a lot of part-time jobs as an assistant to a therapist, assistant teacher. Right after that, 6 years prior to what I'm doing right now, I was in the educational field as a special educator. So I worked with a lot of people with different cases, some autistic, some actually had other disorders like bipolar disorder. And I learned a lot, and I saw so many different dimensions to the same situation. Like there were people who had been through maybe the exact same thing that I did, but there were so many different perspectives to it that I'm so glad that I got to experience during that time. After the special education and the teaching period sort of came to an end, because I couldn't find fulfillment. I started seeing that the educational field was becoming a money pot. Now I live in Dubai, and Dubai is sort of business over everything, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I started realizing that no matter how much change I want to bring in to this place, no matter how much hard work I put in, it's going to exhaust me. Because I remember going to my superiors and going like, you know what, this is what's going on with the child. And they would be like, no, we don't want to ruin our image. And I used to work for one of the top companies. Well, I'm not going to say company, but that's how I perceive them.
Yeah.
Top schools in Dubai. And it was sad. It was so sad, Adam, to like see that there's a child. I remember being that child. There's a child who needed help, and nobody did a darn thing about it, and they were just worried about their business. So I left that, and I began realizing that if I wanted to make any significant amount of change, I needed to be at the top of the food chain. And when I say top of the food chain, that means I need it to be the source that everyone sees and hears, so they know that these things are happening. That's where my entrepreneurial journey sort of started. And that's where I opened shop with my own digital media production company, so that we could have stories from different people and all sorts of narratives from all around the world given a platform to talk about. And that's kind of where everything started connecting. So that's where I got into speaking. That's where I got into the podcast, so on and so forth. But yeah, that's basically it.
Wow. what a journey and experience. I mean, that you went on, like you said, like through university, um, degrees, and then kind of
Mhm.
like working your way up, and
Mhm.
then kind of like, realizing, there's more to life, and, the people that are out there that need to have their voice, to have
Yeah.
their story told and put out there.
Yeah, exactly. And it breaks my heart that I did not do this earlier. Although
Mm.
I don't regret anything that happened in my life, but there is that pain every time someone comes up to me, whether it's at a speaking event or when I'm having a conversation or when someone's read something of mine, they go like, I wish I could talk to you before and talk about my problems and not feel alone.
Mm.
And I think to sum it all up, right now in life, I feel so motivated about everything I do because I'm healing myself and everybody else. And I don't
Mm.
think anybody could change that mindset for me right now because I've been through the worst. You
Mm.
know what I
Mm.
mean?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So, yeah, that's basically it.
So, like, by helping other people, your life, by making other people's life better, your life becomes better as well, because
Hmm.
you're seeing people who've probably been through things like you have, or been through certain things, and then you can kind of relate to them and give your take on it, and then they
Yeah,
feel like, they're not alone. Because I think, like you said, sometimes people go through things and they feel like it's only happened to them, or they don't have
yeah,
anyone to talk to about it.
yeah. And it's hard, right? When you're going through something and then you feel there is this amount, even if you don't have a mental illness or disorder, there are emotions are such a huge part of us, and we don't even realize how big of a contributor our emotions are in every single part and aspect of our life. So during those times when our emotions become so heavy, we're just down and there's nobody to pick us up from the rabbit hole other than
Mm.
having that support or that, helpline to sort of help you see the light, that, help you realize that,
Mm.
what, you fell down in the rabbit hole, so you never existed in the rabbit hole from before. There is no need to feel as though this is the end. And I remember feeling this way because I felt like nobody was there for me. I felt like this is it, my
Mm.
life is meant to be the victim of physical abuse and mental abuse, and my parents, however shitty they are, I
Mm.
have to live with it.
Mm.
But when I now see people, and now with everything that I've been through, it's become so much more important for me to kind of make everybody realize that someone else's acknowledgement and someone else's validation does not define us, does
Mm.
not weigh our worth, and that definitely does not change anything towards the bright future that we're going to have, which
Mm.
unfortunately many people don't, easily take in or believe in because they're going
Mm.
through hard times. So everybody needs somebody.
Mm. No, I think that's a really good point. That's really true. And I think, like, you realizing yourself that you needed to change your situation and
Mm-hmm.
get out of it and do something, with your life. Whereas some people, like you said, can get sucked into that and take on and believe what is being said to them or what's happening, and they just think this is how it is. This is normal.
Yeah.
Or things are going. Or they might think things are going to change, and then before you know
Mm-hmm.
it, a lot of time's gone by.
Yeah.
Or they might leave that relationship or leave that scenario, and then attract people into their lives. Like might go into more abusive relationships because that's what they're used to, or what's that's what they think is
Oh,
normal.
definitely. Oh, definitely. I remember, and like this is such a good point that you brought up. Like there is a pattern. If you don't start seeing it yourself, you're just going to keep following that pattern. And that happened for me. When I left home and I was becoming independent, I thought that okay, this is it. You know what? I'm free now. I can start focusing on myself. But that's when I started realizing, until it got like super late, that I had fallen into another relationship that was portraying the same signs in a different way. And at that time, the relationship that I was in, my partner was such a douchebag. I
Mm.
can't explain to you
Yeah.
how much of a douchebag he was, but he was such a douchebag that he made me feel the same way my parents made me feel.
Mm.
And until it got too late, I realized, like, oh God, like, I'm repeating myself. So from then till now, after that relationship, when I caught myself doing that, I realized I needed to just really reassess myself, find myself, because that's what I realized, that because of all these things, I was starting to look at my life, at my personality, out of what everyone else told me. Like, oh, Sway, you're sweet. I would label myself as sweet. Oh, Sway, you're too nice. I would label myself as too nice. I never gave give myself the chance or the space to, you know, get out of those labels and like figure out, like, okay, this is who I am. And now, after that relationship, you know, I ended that relationship for 3 years. I didn't date anyone. I did not
Mm.
do anything but focus on myself. And after 3 years, I cannot explain how beautiful that journey has been, because after 3 years, when I met the right person, who's my husband right now,
Mm.
it everything made sense. I was no longer screaming at him for the little things that he never did, because I was doing that in my previous relationships. I was always blaming them for my previous trauma, and there was always that back and forth. But now, in the relationship that I cultivated then with my husband now, there's just so much mutual respect, admiration. And it's all because we both came from an understanding that we need to find ourselves first, validate ourselves by ourselves first, and then, you know, complement each other. And I think that's what most people forget.
Mm. No, that's it. And I think, you know, like, kudos to you for, like, you know, realizing that over time, and, you
Mm-hmm.
know, noticing those patterns, and like, you know, kind of probably getting to know yourself that bit more and working on yourself to then have the relationship that you want to have. Because I think, you know,
Yeah.
like, you need to sort the relationship out with ourselves, don't we, to
Yeah.
then be able to have a relationship with someone else. And it's that, like, duality, and like you said, that communication is key. That's
Yeah.
something that I've learned, and I think, yeah, things can get really misinterpreted sometimes if you're not effectively communicating.
No, definitely. Here's one thing that most people think when I tell them this, is that, like, oh, that's it. You know, you took 3 years and that's it. Like, you found the one and that's it. Your journey with yourself is over. And I think that's what people get wrong. For me, I'm still on my journey. There's I'm just as sacred and full of unknowns as the universe. And
Mm.
I'm going to keep finding out new things about myself. So the expectations with myself is pretty low and pretty high at the same time. I know that I'm going to do really great things, but I know there are going to be some days I'm going to do really shitty things. And I have to be okay with that, because I'm on a path to truly find out myself. So if I
Mm.
have expectations like that, and if I want to be in a healthy relationship or in a healthy environment, I need to have the same expectations with the people I'm working with the people, you know, I share any sort of intimate relationship with, my friends, my family. And it's that mindset that makes communicating and communication in general so much easier, because you know that it's never the end when it comes to you or a personality or an individual. It's just an ongoing journey forever. You're never going to know someone or yourself in a day or 3 years or 4 years. It just keeps
Mm.
going. It's a process.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like you said, I think it's an ongoing journey and it's a process, and it's just all the time ongoing. I think for,
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, for the whole time that we're alive, we're, you know, we're always going to be growing, if we choose to, and learning things about ourselves, about other people. And when you have relationships, you learn something else about yourself. But then,
Yeah.
something kind of clicks into place. You might meet someone else, and then someone else, and then you're just like building on yourself. And like you said, with how you live your life is being yourself and being genuine to who you are, and bringing that to when you meet other people and when you work. It's being open to the universe, isn't it? And
Yeah, because
welcoming. Yeah.
isn't it, because that's basically the law of attraction. You
Mm.
attract what is in you, like attracts
Mm.
like. And I think for us to be in a place with everything that's going on in the world right now, it's so important for us to be comfortable with changes. And I think people get too comfortable in knowing the person that they were 5 years ago. So they start getting cranky when people go like, oh, you've changed, because they haven't accepted themselves that they've changed. I'm going to be okay when I'm 50 and I no longer enjoy taking a car ride down to the beach. I'm going to be okay with that when my
Mm.
other adventurous friends who are still adventurous go like, oh, you know what, let's go here. I'm going to be okay with that, because I know that at that age I'm going to have a different mindset. I'm going to
Mm.
have a different zen, and the universe's calling for me is going to be different.
Mm.
So it's just that mindset of knowing that the world around us is ever changing. So it's impossible for us to be the same forever. And once
Mm.
we accept that, we're doing okay. We will be okay, regardless of what happens.
Mm. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think, like you say, there's a quote, and it's like the best way to go into change is just to dive right into it. It's
Yeah.
when we evolve, don't we? And we're not the same people that we were 2 weeks ago or 3 months ago.
Or even
Um,
from today morning.
yeah, yeah. Like, just you could have a conversation with someone and you learn something new about yourself, or you just, like you said, you going into the unknown is
Mhm.
is the only way. And it's like I did podcast with Dustin Lee, and he said, like, you just got to try things out. Just, just
Yeah.
just try things out. It's the only way. Like, going into something.
Now, I'm pretty sure when you began this podcast, you had this sense of understanding that whoever you meet, whatever you do with this podcast is going to change you, even if it's by a little fraction. And I think
Mm.
that's beautiful that you were accepting towards that change.
Yeah, when I did it, I knew I'd probably change in some way.
Hmm.
I mean, I put this off for a couple of years. I think I was too worried about what other people are going to think. Um,
Mm.
Too busy in a job I didn't really enjoy. So yeah, but when I started it, I just didn't think it would take off. Really, I didn't think. Probably underestimated myself in some way, and the whole thing. And then through doing it, like you said, the universe supports you if you're open to it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really shifted my perspective and really made me really push myself out of my comfort zone. Which I
Yeah.
think is important. As a person in life.
Hmm. I'm so glad. I'm so happy to hear that, you know, you went for something that was different for you, because most of the time people just get caught, they get caught
Mm.
up in the idea that it's too different, it's too out of a particular zone. And
Mm.
I think we need to forget that zones exist because
Yeah,
again, it's sort of like putting yourself in a box and not stepping out of it. Who
yeah.
put you there in the first place? Someone put you there. That's why you're there.
Mm.
Go figure out
Mm.
the other boxes and create haywire of different things. So
Yeah.
kudos to you, Adam. I don't think um, anything you've done has been with that purpose. And to me personally, that's so motivating and inspiring.
Oh, thank you, Swey. It really, really means a lot from, from my heart. I really, really appreciate it. It's why I do it, because, I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate about people. And, I think we've all got our own journey, and I think it's important to connect with other people. And, if we can put something positive out there, then that makes us better as people, doesn't it?
It does. Even if it's 0.0001% that you're doing, you have no idea where in the world that 0.001% is affecting in a positive way. And I think living with that mindset, knowing that it's eventually doing you good and the world good, even if it's in a small, fraction or matter, is all that matters. Because happiness it can't be defined by the norms that exist today. Happiness is so much more bigger than that. Positivity is so much more bigger than that. So if we just sort of have the outlook that you do and I do, and sort of keep spreading that love, I think we'll get there someday.
Yeah, no, of course. And it's that ripple effect, isn't it? And it's that kind of like almost like compound interest. If you do something like you say that 1% each day, that 1% is then going to build up over time and gain traction and momentum, isn't it? So little things add up to big things, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, you don't see a picture. For example, a painter. You don't see a painter finishing a painting in a minute. It takes time. It's a process, and I think that's the beauty of it. It's just the little details here and there. Even if you have to go over those details over and over again, it matters, and it comes out beautiful, however it is.
No, that's a really lovely point. I think that's completely, really, really true. Yeah, no, it definitely is. I usually ask people who come on the podcast about books and reading. Do you have any favorite books at all or anything like that?
At the moment, there is this book that has really got me intrigued. I think it's called, just a second.
It's okay.
Because I don't remember the exact name. I think it's called Witchcraft. It's basically about the previous covens that were in existence, because witchcraft was actually a religion before it was anything else. So this particular book, it piqued my interest because I'm really into the universe. I'm into philosophy, I'm into psychology, and I love the combination of everything that it brings into. And I'm a self-healer. I believe in crystals. I believe in energy. So this particular book, it really piqued my interest because it basically talks about how modern day, Wiccas, which are witches or whatever, it was basically sort of what Christians, Hindus, these different religions, what they do, but the rituals what they have are more practical, are more related to the things that are coming out now, which was so famous back then. For example, energy healing wasn't accepted or so big in the last few years, but it started picking up momentum again because it's from the old books and old readings and scriptures. So yeah, this book has really caught my interest. What are you reading?
Me, no, it's awesome. It sounds like a really good book. I'll definitely have to check it out.
You do. It is a good book.
Yeah. That's the problem. I end up reading a book and then I end up buying another one and then buying another one, and then I'm like, I've got all these books I need to read. I've one of the recent books I read was by a philosopher called Epicurus.
Oh, okay.
Called Manual for Living, and it's a small little book, and Epicurus was he was under Marcus Aurelius, who was in the Roman times, he was a
Mm-hmm.
philosopher. So he kind of I think Marcus Aurelius was his teacher.
Okay.
So there's lots of his ancient old kind of scripts and writings that have been translated into books. So that basically talks about life and the law of attraction, and basically lots of different mantras for life, and that's really interesting. So that's
No,
called a manual for living.
oh, that's great. I mean, Epicurus was actually like really influential in the school of philosophy at the time, at that time when philosophy was sort of out and coming. And it's amazing. Like, I haven't really read many of his books,
Mm.
but this has been on my to read list for a while, and I just haven't come around to it. So how would you rate it, like out of 5?
I I definitely give it a 5. I mean, you can read it in probably 20 minutes. It's like a little tiny
Hello?
small kind of like. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, yeah.
For a minute you went dead silent.
Oh, it's yeah. I'd give it a 5. I think you can read it in probably 20 to 30 minutes. It's
Oh,
um
okay.
it's a really kind of small. I think it's 120 pages. So
Oh,
it's something you just kind of like flick through and take from. Um, so I
I'm gonna
definitely rate it.
I'm gonna do that tonight.
I'll send you a photo of it so you kind of yes, see what it's like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think philosophy is really amazing. Like there's a good philosopher that I like called Alan Watts. Have you ever heard of Alan Watts?
Um, not nothing at the top of my head, but
I'll
maybe something will pick up if you keep continuing talking about it.
Yeah, I'll send you the link to it. But he's a philosopher back in the 60s, 70s in America, and
Oh,
he talked
okay.
about society and jobs and what's happening now, basically
Mm-hmm.
back then. But people didn't take him serious back then because it wasn't happening.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
So
people didn't take him serious. Whereas now, like you said, with all these teachings and writings, they're kind of
yeah.
like prevalent like today now, which is crazy.
No, it's amazing because cosmology, philosophy, law of attraction, all of these things, they have been in existence and in works for so long. But I think when you know this is how I feel like it started when celebrities started going like, oh yeah, we believe in energy healing and we believe in this, we believe in that. It sort of became a trend, and
Yeah.
now the craft of it is unfortunately, like, the people who are writing about it now in this generation aren't really giving out accurate things because
Mm.
they jumped on the wagon, and they're
Yeah.
now just waving that red flag saying like, oh yeah, we're a part of it. But in reality, it's just to many people who don't understand the art of psychology, philosophy, cosmology, and so many more things that sort of really connect so well to people and universe.
Mm.
um it's sad. It's just sad.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think, like you said, a lot of people can kind of jump on the bandwagon of it, and you have to really like because it's a very personal thing to each person. Everyone's got their own kind of spiritual connection to it,
Yeah.
and you kind of have to have that connection to it, I think, or to research it to understand it.
Hmm.
But not, I think it's so important, and I think crystals really help. I'm very spiritual, very I'm into like crystals and energy.
Oh, that's
Um,
amazing. What is your star sign, and what is your go-to
I
crystal?
I'm an Aries,
Oh my
so
God, same.
yeah,
Oh,
that's awesome.
same.
Yeah,
Aquamarine, jasper. What's your topaz, diamond? What's your
I
poison? Or
I I mean I've got a salt lamp. I quite like salt lamps.
oh wow.
I've got like a chunk of quartz, clear quartz.
Uh,
Um,
clear quartz are amazing. They're sort of like the, I mean, usually I use a clear quartz if I want like the energy of all the crystals at home to sort of be amplified. But clear
mm,
quartz, otherwise, it's so grounding.
yeah, no, definitely. And got clear quartz. I've got like a bit of amethyst. I mean, like purple amethyst.
Yeah,
But
that's
I think,
everyone's favorite. Nobody wants to admit it, but that stone looks pretty. So pretty
mm,
that you want to just keep it around your neck.
yeah, yeah. There's there's lots of different crystals, but I think it's quite a personal thing. You really just connect with certain rocks or crystals.
Well, since you're an Aries, this is a suggestion from an Aries to Aries. Um, I don't know about, like, do you have typical Aries personalities, like, typical Aries traits?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'd say so. Yeah, like
same.
yeah. I've got a lot of energy, and I stand my ground. And if it's something I don't agree with, I'll say it. And
Very outspoken.
mm,
Yeah, I know. So there is this one crystal or stone that I would suggest is getting a red jasper
right,
or getting an aquamarine, even if it's like a tumble stone or even the rough cut. If you just keep it around you, it really like sort of recharges your energy and sort
mm,
of brings it from negative to positive. Because what happens with us Aries 80% of the time is that we have all this energy, and sometimes there are not many people around us who sort of bounce back with that same energy, and that ends up upsetting us, and we don't really consciously realize that it's upsetting us. And one fine day, which happens within a few hours, we start having outbursts, which are very
mm,
subtle at first. We sort of start losing focus in things. Like, let's say we made a plan to watch something with our partner or with our friends. We start having this memory come back to us like, oh, you know what? When I had so much energy, nobody was really giving it back to me, and the room was not being read. And you start losing focus in that moment, and your
mm,
energy
mm,
starts dissipating into what happened before. So to keep that energy regulated, I think these crystals or stones really helped me to sort of keep myself grounded and focus my positive energy and my negative energy at the right things,
mm.
you know? So try it out. It might work for you.
Yeah, no, of course. I I definitely agree. Like you said, I think like our star sign, we have like a lot of energy, and I feel like sometimes I feel like if it's not going in a certain direction, I kind of feel bad, and it's like
Exactly.
we need to try to channel it into into something. Um,
Yeah. You have no idea how many times I've picked a fight with someone just because, okay? Because I
mm,
couldn't feel that energy coming back. I couldn't feel like, okay, like I want to do this. And because I'm such a passionate person about every single thing, it's really
mm,
hard for other people to understand that there is so much passion for every single thing. So
yeah,
it's sometimes misread. Sometimes people go like, oh, you're being childish, or you're being too hyper, and I don't give a flying f about those labels, to be honest. But to keep myself losing focus, especially when it comes to a person that I love, like for
mm.
example my husband, he's an Aquarius.
Mm.
We're complete opposites, mate.
It's water and fire, isn't it? I think Aries are fire, but Aquarius
Yeah,
is water. Yeah.
yeah. So it's at the beginning of our relationship, there was so much drama, not like, because his way of, about the acts of love, right? Like we
Yeah.
have everyone has a different way of showing affection, and his was always doing things for me, and for me it's always hugging, or kissing
Mm,
or
mm, mm,
cuddling.
mm, mm.
And So there would always be this mix up, because I would want that from him, because I would always have energy for that, because I'm passionate in that way. And
Yeah.
I would do even the things that he does as an Aquarius. But unfortunately, as an Aquarius, he can't do what I can do, because he doesn't have that same energy as that I do. So there's, it's like, for me as an Aries, I really had to like figure out, where do I have my energy sort of burst off. So I think that helps to just sort of calm you down and keep you focused.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think like how we do relationship, we're quite intense. We're very passionate, and
Super intense.
we were 100%,
Mm-hmm.
in it all together. And I think, like you said, it's having that mutual balance in some way. And I think it's very obvious to us if it's not reciprocated. We kind of know. And
Yeah.
like you said, there were those outbursts, and I've been like that in the past, and we will communicate things if it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah,
But
and it's really hard to stand by,
mm,
because our personalities are such, like, we don't really have a middle ground, and I learned that a long time ago. There's no in between for us. It's either all in or all out. Don't expect
yeah,
something in between.
yeah,
So yeah, most people, they go like, you know what, you could just be in between for a bit. Why don't you feel okay? I'm like, no, I'm either feeling brilliant, or I'm feeling, somewhere in the center of the earth,
yeah.
surrounded by volcanoes. There's no in between for me. And it's really hard to communicate that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what we need to focus on. That's why I got into like healing myself, energy healing, keeping my focus on the universe and what it gives back to me. And it helped me so much. It's just that not many people really take out the time to look at these perspectives for themselves, which sucks.
Yeah, and that's how you grow, and that's how you develop, and that's how you make your relationship stronger, isn't it?
Yep, exactly.
No, it's definitely true. But no, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Sweden. Like,
No,
I could,
it's been an absolute honor to be on this podcast with you, and I've had this amazing conversation with you. I think we bonded instantly, which I love. It's really hard to find.
yeah,
80% of the time when I meet another Aries, there is this, who's got the bigger balls thing going
yeah.
on. But I I did not have that here. So I thank you for giving me that space, and thank you for clicking with me and connecting with me. I loved it.
No, you're very, very welcome, and really means a lot for you coming on the podcast. And I think, like you said, I could probably talk together all day, because we're on that same wavelength, and
Yeah.
star signs, that connection, like, and it really, really means a lot. And I think you're doing great in everything that you're doing, really positive. And I wish you all the best with what you're doing. And so,
Thank you
like,
so much.
you're welcome. You're welcome. And like, this could be the first of many, if you wanted to. Like, we could go on each other's podcasts, and I have to go on yours. And
Yeah, definitely. I think
we're
my listeners would love to hear you talk, and
yeah,
love to hear the conversation that we had, because I think, from an outsider, it's a little funny and entertaining the way we talk to each other. So yeah, it would be amazing to have you on my podcast.
yeah. No, I'd love it. It'd be great. So like, where can people find you on social media? Like, your podcast, social media.
So I'm mostly on LinkedIn, which is Sweydeen GT, and on Instagram, which is Swey Sings, SWEYSINGS. Over there, it's basically all my podcast stuff, all the stuff that I usually do, and spreading all the positivity. If people want to check out what I do as an entrepreneur with my husband and my company, they can check out at True KV. But that's basically it.
No, awesome. Great. No, I really enjoyed today, and yeah, I'll stay in touch, and I'll put all your details in the description as well.
Thank you so much for having me, Adam. It was such an honor and absolute pleasure to be able to have this conversation with you. Thank you so much for having me. And you have a lovely day ahead.
I will do. You too. You're very welcome. Very welcome.
All right. Thank you so much, Adam. We'll talk soon, and let me know what your calendar looks like for when you come on my podcast.
Yeah, of course. Definitely. I'll be in touch.
Perfect. All right. Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Take care. All the best.
Take care. You too. Bye.
Bye.